I'd like to turn it over to Livian Von Dran. Livian is one of the recent volunteers for IRG and who has become an absolutely integral part of the daily updates. So for those of you that are interested and get the daily updates that are a digest of academic papers across many disciplines in your inbox, that's a project that was started by Doug Loss and is being taken up in leadership by Livian. He's doing an absolutely bang-up job, so we are pleased to have Livian present this last lecture today. Take it away. All right. All good. Let's move forward. That's the laser. You can point it at the any of the three screens.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so let's see if this. Oh, wait. Okay, let me go back. Okay, so yeah, I'll keep the introduction short. As Joe said, I am yeah, I'm a grant writer and science communicator for IRG, and I'm also an entomologist for the Spring Institute for Forests on the Moon. So unfortunately, my co-author Patrick Grove, he couldn't make it here tonight, just because he attended the Melissa conference last week, and he's understandably very burnt out from that, and unfortunately, I don't have like a cardboard cutout to place of him here, so just pretend he's here in spirit. So, those are just all the acronyms and abbreviations and keywords. And so, when I was producing the manuscript just for this presentation, essentially, I had three primary objectives. I wanted to detail the history of space ecology to establish its historical context and just be able to accurately identify its origin point. And I wanted to define space ecology, and one of the main reasons for that is outside of the space ecology workshop, space ecology has not actually been formally defined in the mainstream academic literature. And also just defining that and just building a hierarchical framework of related terms. I want to be able. Also, can you guys hear me? Just making sure. Okay. I also wanted to be able to identify gaps and obstacles in space ecology's R&D landscape. And we're going to ignore that. I just went back there. So a lot of people are asking why analyze space ecology in the first place, because a very common criticism of space experiments is just the high expenditure involved. And with a lot of the time with space ecology experiments, what you're going to have to do is you're either going to have to simulate microgravity conditions here on Earth, or you are going to have to get a payload and send it into orbit. And obviously, it's a bit more complicated than that, and there are other ways of conducting the experiments. But a lot of people think that for that that money that's being used on those space ecology experiments could be better used elsewhere. And to be frank, like the um sorry. Um, so that overlooks the impact experiments in space can have in general. IS the there was one paper that said that public International Space Station based papers, they receive 63% more citations on average. And also experiments in space have led to a lot of innovations. For example, like Wow, I am tongue twisted today. So they've led to innovations, for example, in medical imaging. So like they've contributed to MRIs, PET scans, and space ecology experiments don't even have to be in space to have an impact. Biosphere 2, which is arguably the largest space ecology experiment ever conceived. It's provided us key insights just about both like ecosystem dynamics here on Earth, and it's also given us like a lot of insight into how like both humans, plants, and animals would survive in closed ecological systems. So I'm not going to bother to explain all that methodology just for to save on time. So when you are discussing the history of space ecology, you're inevitably discussing the history of bioregenerative life support systems and closed ecological life support systems. And the reason for that is one of the overarching goals of space ecology is to replicate ecological processes in Earth's biosphere to be able to just close the loop in these life support systems. And so, interestingly, a lot of the just supporting framework for these concepts, they were developed like decades before any of these concepts were formally conceived in the literature. For example, I'm probably going to mispronounce that, but the Russian father of astronautics, he actually conceived of the concept of closed ecological systems in the early 1900s. So, in talking to some people, there were some people who are saying, for closed ecological life support systems specifically, that they may have gone back as far as World War II. But the earliest mention or the earliest origin point I was able to find for space ecology is just going to be the historical emergence of cabin ecology. And so there were two articles in a weekly magazine called Guns and Rockets, and they were both published in 1958. And one detailed how they were using different photosynthetic organisms just to be able to, I guess, regenerate oxygen in closed environments. And the other one discussed how they were using basically submarine cabins just to be able to simulate the conditions for a space cabin. So, the 1960s is where you start to see space ecology get a lot of academic mainstream attention. The first international conference on environmental systems was held in 1971, and with the exception of 2020, it's been held annually since then. And it's to this day, it's a center it's a center point for academic discussion on space ecology and a lot of its related life support systems. And in 1961, the huh, okay, I didn't put that other thing, but um in 1961, John F. Kennedy announced the United States's I guess dedication to going to the moon. And coincidentally, or not, depending on how you interpret the space race, the in the same year, the Department of Biophysics at the Institute of Physics in Siberia, they got together to develop a prototype biological life support system, and um, construction for the system would ultimately begin in 1967. And yeah, Biosphere, to my knowledge, was the first large-scale experimental closed ecosystem, and then also in August 1962, probably one of the earliest academic gatherings on space ecology was a symposium ran by the Ecological Society of America. And it was to discuss biological life support systems and potential ecological problems associated with the lunar base. So, even here, you're seeing space ecology's strong association with just the biological life support systems. And yeah, that symposium was actually arranged by Dr. Frida Taub, and I actually did get the opportunity to speak to her in August, and she provided a lot of just great insight just into how space ecology and closed ecological life support systems are viewed in general. And wait, did I? Okay, forgive me. That is okay, that is a typo I apparently overlooked. So yeah, the international conference was held in 1971. It should have been on this slide, but in 1972, the construction of Biosphere was finalized, and what they and there were prior experiments with other systems called Bios 1 and Bios 2. So what Biosphere did is it improved on just these experiments by for example, like the chlorella algae, they're a good baseline for just studying like how to oxygenate a closed system, but they're not exactly edible. So what they did is they replaced the algae with like crops like wheat and vegetables, and what they did is they experimented with just sustaining the analog astronauts on a primarily vegetable based diet, and just using like waste streams to be able to, I guess, help sustain the plants. And also notable in 1978, NASA initiated its CLS program. And this is around the time, and you're also going to see this in the bibliometric analysis. You're going to see a lot of an increase in both CELSS research and just space ecology research in general. Okay, no, right, no. Okay, and as was mentioned previously, the Melissa Project was established in 1989, and obviously it's still going to this day. And to my knowledge, what differentiates this system from other ones is they're modeled after aquatic ecosystems, but they keep biodiversity to a minimum, and they typically only use microbes and plants in their models. And I've talked to a lot of people about this. In 1991, the construction for Biosphere 2 was finalized. And one of the notable things they did is they ran an experiment for about 2 years where they had a crew of 8 biospherians go in and basically try to sustain themselves on just the biodiversity in there. It was a mixed bag. They did encounter issues with like oxygen, protein, like just interpersonal conflicts, but it did give a lot of insight into just how I guess closed ecological systems would contribute to potential habitation efforts in the future. And unfortunately, in 2004, the NASA's CLS program was formally closed because its research funding was reallocated out elsewhere. And what you are also going to notice here, and again, you are going to see this in the bibliometric analysis, is following this CELSS research, it drops pretty significantly, and especially NASA's contributions to it. During this time period, NASA would have been the largest contributor to just this body of research, but that's no longer the case. And I believe to this day, or at least from what I found, China's taken up basically the first place in being the leading contributor. And yeah, so a lot of the I guess just plans for from the NASA CLS program were publicly available. So it can be argued that the China National Space Administration, they it's likely they or at least some people have speculated that they basically took a lot of these plans and used them to develop their own CLS capabilities, and this likely contributed to the development of the Beijing Lunar Palace. And in 2022, the most significant event for space ecology is that it finally got a formal workshop dedicated to it, and the same group did also finally define space ecology after nearly 70 years. So, yeah. So when you're trying to define space ecology, so the problem with that term is it's very easy to confuse with a lot of other terms. Space ecology is often used just in the context of just describing the sustainable management of space debris. Although what I did find is that space sustainability is a better term to use for that, just to not confuse the two fields. And also, space ecology is easily confused with spatial ecology and astroecology, to the point that if you search for space ecology, a lot of the time you're going to get results pertaining to one of those two terms instead. And spatial ecology, it studies just the spatial distributions of organisms, populations, landscapes, and their effects on ecological processes. And yeah, so astroecology is it's essentially ecology but for extraterrestrial life. And if you just follow the I think it's pronounced etymology. If you follow the etymology for these terms, you're going to notice, like, as astrobiology, sorry, as astroecology is a subfield of astrobiology. Space ecology can be considered a subfield of space biology. And so space biology, it's a really broad field, but generally the best way you're going to be able to describe it is it investigates how the space environment just impacts life, just like at the molecular, cellular, or organ and organismic level. And something that should be that does need to be clarified, space biology, and by proxy space ecology, they specifically deal with terrestrial life or life from Earth. Extraterrestrial, the study of extraterrestrial life, obviously, that's within the realm of other fields. And did I put? Okay. Let me see. Okay. Sorry, I got confused. I think I accidentally went back. So, those select organisms can survive. Though select organisms can survive in space, it's impossible for most of them to survive in space unprotected. So there's a field called bioastronautics, and what it essentially does is it combines biology, medicine, space technology, and engineering to just study how uh, space impacts something's biology. And what's significant about bioastronautics is it contributed to the development of environmental control and life support systems. For example, like the one you see on the International Space Station. And it uses, specifically, what this does is it uses mechanical, chemical, and physical chemical processes to just help sustain, like, a spacecraft's inhabitants. So, the problem with those current models is, though they're highly efficient, you're going to get a small amount of loss when oxygen and water are recycled. Um, so, what researchers have done, and what they've been doing for decades actually, is they've been attempting to just simulate ecological processes from Earth's biosphere to be able to fully close that loop. And there are a few different types of biological life support systems. Boris mentioned bioregenerative life support systems. And what these do specifically is they use living organisms to regenerate the life sustaining resources and maintain the habitability of a spacecraft or space habitat. And closed ecological life support systems, they're a subset of BLSS, and they take it a step further by just replicating ecological processes in from Earth's biosphere. And a lot. I think a lot of the time they are aiming to try to make these life support systems entirely biological, although to my knowledge, they haven't succeeded in fully doing that yet. And yeah. So that's just the hierarchical framework of related terms. And okay, so space ecology, it can be defined as the study of terrestrial ecosystems and the ecological dynamics of their living and non-living components in the space environment. And I realize I'm short on time, so allow me to run through this. So, with the bibliometric results, what we found overall is that space ecology, all areas of space ecology have a lower annual growth rate than the average. So this could indicate that generally space ecology is a slow growing field. But the framework that was used to select the publications was also very strict. So it could mean that a lot of the uh, publications that could otherwise qualify were accidentally omitted. And yep, so with space ecology, it just the results reflect the general trends that it seems to be like underrepresented in academia. Ecology in general, when you're talk in just space science discussions, a lot of the time it's either overlooked entirely or it is misrepresented. And just going back to what I said earlier, space ecology experiments are very expensive. And so just going back to the NASA CELSS program, you're going to notice starting in around 1978, there's going to be a spike in just the total, like the research output. And so to quantify this, we just analyzed the annual publication averages before, during, and after the CLS program. And what we found is, with the exception of bioastronautics, essentially all areas increased in just research productivity. And bioastronautics did demonstrate reduced research output, but just due to the way the bibliometric analysis was conducted, I don't okay, sorry. So what likely happened is the use of the term fell out of favor, and other terms like space biology became more popular instead. And most notably, CELS, it became the most productive research area by a wide margin just during the program. But following the program's closure, the research output decreased pretty substantially. And for the limitations of the bibliographic analysis, Open Alex's web interface, it's very hard to use. Sometimes you can't get all the parameters you want, and that makes it really hard to be manipulate the API at times. And there are a lot of inconsistencies in Open Alex's metadata because it's only 3 years old. So just in conclusion, the bibliometric analysis likely supports two conclusions. One is that space ecology may be a neglected field that needs more academic attention. And the other is that the NASA CELSS program harmed the research infrastructure associated with CELS. And the space ecology workshop did identify that there were gaps in there are technology and knowledge gaps involving CELS, and it's likely that these funding deficits have contributed to these gaps. Just due to the limitations present in the bibliometric analysis, follow-up studies are needed to be able to fully verify these findings. And there's the acknowledgement, there's the references, and are there any questions?
I actually have two questions. The first one is that what we know about monolithic cultures, which I would assume is similar to closed loop systems, is they're highly susceptible to a catastrophic failure with, fungus or certain diseases. How do we guard against the fact that if we have a monolithic ecosystem, closed loop ecosystem, to make sure that we don't experience some kind of catastrophic failure. Whether it's for production for food or for using it to scrub the atmosphere. But the second question is, my understanding is in the original Biosphere, one of, I'll use the word cheats that they did was they did not include flowering plants that used insects for to pollinate them. And so would a closed loop system necessarily need space beekeepers?
So for the first question, so a lot of it is going to depend on what species you are using. I think one of the reasons they're trying to integrate biological aspects into these life support systems is to actually try to almost reduce like reliance on like just mechanical processes just to potentially reduce the failure rate. But it is honestly going to depend on the species. For example, there have been so, um so I imagine, depending on the scale, one of the things you may want to do is try to incorporate biodiversity into it, so you're not just relying on one species. There have, for example, been discussions on integrated pest management in the event like insect pests somehow manage to get into just the life support system. So there there are like backups, but a lot of it is going to depend on the species in question. And for your second question, um, so um, so for like the pollinators and stuff, so that is something that is also discussed a lot in biological life support systems. But the issue is so you're going to need a decent scale of just system in general to be able to fully establish those I guess plant pollinator networks, and they have looked into a few different strategies. Sometimes they'll pollinate things by hand. Sometimes they have looked into using insects to specifically pollinate in these space systems, but the results have been somewhat mixed so far. They have incorporated insects into these systems in other ways. Like, for example, I know they're using black soldier flies to try to like fertilize regolith to make it more hospitable to plants and the like. So yeah.
Well, I certainly hope there become space beekeepers because I'd certainly like to make some space mead.